Welcome to Product Coffee. It is August 13th, 2025. And for today's first cup, we're going to talk MVPs. So when Eric Ries popularized the minimum viable product, the goal was simple: build just enough to learn fast. In the startup world, MVPs were scrappy experiments, but enterprises adopted the idea too. Sometimes with success, sometimes with frustration. But in today's AI-driven environment, the rules are shifting again. With generative tools shortening build cycles and automated testing and faster feedback loops, what is minimum now? And is viable about functionality? Is it about learning? Or is it just about optics? We're going to talk about that with our guest, with our panel today. Let's get to know them. First up, if Product Coffee were reading Rainbow, she'd be LeVar Burton. Welcome, Product Coffee librarian and senior product owner at Milliken and Company, Allison Herbert. And he turns don't code into an art form. Jerry Odenwelder, product coach at cPrime. Jerry. And up next, if he doesn't have a meme to share for this topic, I'm going to be very disappointed. It's Nandu Shah, president of the Atlanta CTO Club. You all look amazingly like Allison. And last but not least, who, what, why, and never how. That's his gospel. Steve Johnson, CEO of Product Growth Leaders. Welcome back, Steve.
Good morning.
All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, so let's dig in on this. And Allison, I want to start with you. And I know you. I threw this at you. I threw this question at you late last night. But in your company, is MVP code for learning fast, or shipping something so ugly even your mom won't click it?
That's a good question. I had an MVP conversation very late yesterday. So I think it's the latter in pockets. I believe our spirit is for the former. There's a lot going on right now, and I suspect that has influence over the outcome of, are we aligned? Do we understand what that means? Are we letting other things in, creeping in working software or gold-plated features? Mm-hmm. I'm on a piece of work right now where we're really just trying to digitize a very manual experience. And we learned along the way, imagine that we needed to do some other things. And so it's really just managing some of that scope and some of that timeline and people's expectations. I think that's going to always happen, whether there's AI in the room or not. So for me, I think it's been a struggle with it being frustrating and delivering something that's not going to deliver value. But right, that's that clarifying opportunity product folks have, is to say, but does this help our customers? Does this get us to a learning place?
So are you even using the concept, or are you just really say we're way past that? We're just focused on building to the outcome we need to get to, and MVP isn't even really part of the conversation?
Yeah, I think we're off the cliff probably in this particular example. We may be off the cliff. I think, right, the word got thrown around in the meeting, and I was like, but we left that long ago when we decided to learn this piece, choose this option. And so I think it was really interesting and very crisp conversation yesterday where we were able to say, this isn't actually going after the business objective and or may not solve the problem. So we may be building something futile, and that may not be needed. So there's an opportunity there for sure. I think the conversation yesterday is probably a little still fresh in my mind, but that's the one example, and maybe that's not everything that's going on in my sphere of work, but it is interesting that word never gets used the way that it should. And I cringe the moment it's invited into the room because it does cause chaos, frustration, and confusion.
Yeah, gotcha. So thanks. So yeah, I think that's actually very common, to be honest with you. So I don't think you're outside the realm of normalcy. The question that I'm really digging on today, and I'm going to turn to you next, Jerry, is what's the right way to go? So should a viable product now automatically come with AI, bells, whistles, and a creepy personalized welcome? I mean, what is the right idea for minimum today?
That's hard because I think it varies. It's going to vary based on who your customers are, what your market is, and what your product is. I think if we get back to to Eric's at least my understanding of Eric's premise, which is get something out there that you can measure and iterate on. It needs to be able to deliver value to the customer. It needs to be usable. It can't be something your mom wouldn't click on, but I don't know that it needs AI out of the box unless your product is AI specific. I go back to I've been ruminating on Steve's comment a couple of weeks back about does a product manager need to play guitar? Um, and if you work for Gibson, you probably do. But my product doesn't need a guitar, right? Like I don't. That's so. I think it depends.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good consultant answer too, isn't it?
it is, and it's fair though. And I used AI as kind of a funny throw in there, but it's really more where is the idea of minimum. And I think you hit it on the head there with Eric Ries' original kind of intent and what he was teaching is something that we can get out there in the market that actually has value that we can learn something from.
Yeah.
Nandu,
Hey, before
yeah,
before
go
you
ahead.
jump away though, I do want to like add to that the concept of whole product thinking, right? Like in every with every product there's the generic product, which is the thing that you expect it to do, but then there's also like things we expect from a product, and then things that augment products, and things that the product could potentially be,
Mhm.
and the bar's constantly moving. So I think you have to in your industry and with your product, the problems you solve, you need to know what's expected, what's augmented, what's potential, and where that slider is. And I think MVP is going to vary based on that.
So it
Anyway,
does
that was
depend.
yeah. Yeah.
Nandu,
By the way, you're not on camera.
I'm not
Nope.
Nope.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't see you dancing to the theme music.
Oh
Yeah.
well,
It's the
you
best
missed
picture of
out.
you I've seen in a long time,
I
but
did
I could
some
see you dancing in
awesome.
my head, though.
I did some awesome John Travolta
Well, I
moves.
suppose we all could. Yeah.
Very
all right,
Okay.
nice.
there you go.
All right. So, real quick, let me. So we're getting that fixed. Oh, and then there went Jerry. So, Nandu, with the original prompt in mind, I'm also kind of just kind of um we've been talking a lot about AI prototyping and building fast with vibe coding tools and so on and so forth. So does AI help us validate ideas really fast, or does it just help us crank out bad ideas at warp speed?
Did you really just prompt me?
I did.
Wait. So I think there are two things that we're talking about here. One is AI in the product, and one for AI for product development, vibe coding, etc. And AI in the product, like what Jerry said, that depends on what you're building, right? But AI for product development, honestly, I think if anything, it lowers the bar for what should count as minimum. Because you can go from 0 to 1 so much faster now. Like you 0 can be less than it ever was, because as soon as you have a little bit of signal, you can build something and iterate,
Mm.
right? And my favorite example of the most minimum viable product ever is in the Hudsucker Proxy in the movie. For anyone who has seen it, uh, yeah, Steve knows what I'm talking about. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't want to give away too much, but it's like a 30-year-old movie at this point, so there's no risk of spoilers. But the main character has an idea for something, and he draws a circle on a napkin, maybe, and holds it up and says,
For kids.
and it turns out to be a hula hoop, right? Um, but that's what an MVP should be. And even in the Lean Startup book, he says you don't have to actually build anything. You should be able to do your first bits of customer discovery with pen and paper. And I think that's more true than ever now, because you can go from pen and paper to something richer so much faster. You don't have to spend time building just to get in front of a potential user.
Gotcha. Very good. That's I love that take. We've been focused so much on what's possible now, and we do ask the question: just because you can do something, does that mean you should do something? And just getting back to the pen and paper prototype still has a ton of value. That's a great take. Thank you. So you always bring good stuff, but still no
No
meme to
memes,
share.
sorry. I do have a whole deck worth of slides for later though.
Okay. Well,
But
we'll
no
use
memes.
them. All right. Sounds good. All right, Steve. I know you don't need to be teed up for this one at all. We've talked about this a little bit, but I think it bears repeating. So, when someone says MVP, what happens to you?
Well, I basically lose my mind.
Yeah, you do.
We're all focused on the wrong word. People are playing games with, well, should it be minimal lovable, or minimal, I don't know, whatever else. The wrong word is product. It was supposed to be an experiment. Nandu's comment about Hudsucker Proxy is a good example of that. But what Eric Ries said was, two things. First, he said it's the most misunderstood concept in this entire lean startup, because people emphasize the word product when he meant prototype. What is the smallest amount of code that you can produce, including zero, that can help you prove or disprove your hypothesis? That's it. And sure, with vibe coding, we can do something fancy pretty quickly, for sure. But we still need to focus on, before we start building a lot of stuff, have we found a problem that people are willing to pay to solve? And is this solution the one that is going to succeed in the market? And what is the minimum amount of work to get there? And, one of his examples, an example that I've used as well, is to set up a web page for a product you're thinking about building with a waiting list, and see how many people sign up for the waiting list. And if nobody signs up for the waiting list, good thing you didn't spend much time even on the web page, much less on an actual product. And I'm running one of those right now. We're doing a mailing list for a new product offering that we're going to do that's more portfolio based rather than product based. And I can share that link if you wish. But the idea is, hey, let's see how many people are interested in this topic before I go any further.
Yeah, that's the absolutely what I expected to hear from you. The reality is, from my perspective, I did not realize that Eric had gone back and said I actually meant something else. It seems like that's a good reason to do a new edition of the book, but maybe change the word. But that term got adopted across the board so much. It meant to the startup founders who were reading it, it meant what's something we can learn from in a really tiny increment. And let's go with that.
No, they weren't even talking about learning. They were talking about what is the smallest thing we can ship and make money on. So
to make money.
That's the ship shit fast scenario, but that's not what we really need at this stage of development. Even before we start developing, we need to validate the problem and the solution.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I wish he would go back through the book and just do a global search and replace to replace product with the word prototype. And one more rant, Ed, and I'll even give you the full rant button there.
There you go.
Shoot, I got distracted. I read a post recently. How long would it take you to get to MVP? They're still thinking, how much coding is the minimum I can get away with and get it into the market? And the answer, as I've expressed, the answer is 0. That's the minimum amount of time. You can put on I can do a web page in 15 minutes. So that's the smallest time. But yeah, I do wish Eric would go through and just global search and replace product with prototype, and then we'd all understand what he was talking about. But then I also crippled myself by actually reading the book and not just looking at the pictures.
That's fair. Wait, it has pictures? All right. So thanks. And Jerry, you popped your hand up. It looks like you've got some more to add. And I want to, while we're bringing Jerry on camera, I want to ask everybody, if you're in the audience today, this is your opportunity to get into a part of the discussion here. Turn that camera on. We're going to take an opportunity to introduce you here in our little virtual meetup. Would love to get to know all of you, and would love your take on this, or just to know what has your attention these days. What are you thinking about in the world of product? So Jerry, go for it.
Yeah, I was just thinking with Steve's comment about the global search and replace and converting product to prototype. I wonder if that would make it worse. Because I can't find the picture. I have a picture that I use when I talk about the difference between an MVP and a prototype. And it really boils down to the experiment. And I remember one of them is Felipe Kahn's first prototype of his phone camera. And if you see, you can Google this, you can just Google Felipe Kahn photo camera, phone camera, or something like that. It'll bring up this picture. It's in a museum, but basically it's just like a bunch of wires that he connected a phone to a camera to sort of demonstrate that this was possible. And it's my thing, Steve, is if Eric went back and changed the word, would that make people think that any prototype is an MVP or want to raise the bar on prototype? And I don't know the answer to that. It's just, I'm just wondering, like, does it make it better? Or does it make it worse?
Good point. But I wonder if good point. Isn't every prototype an MVP? If you actually read Ries's definition of it, it's like the smallest amount of work we can do to prove or disprove a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I hear you. I mean, maybe just changing it to prototype makes things worse because now people think they know something else. I don't know. But
yeah. But Brian, you hit on a good point in chat. Are you talking lo-fi prototype? Or are you talking hi-fi prototype? Are you talking like where on that spectrum does it fall?
Yeah. And let me rant on that just briefly. I have found that the quality of the prototype translates to the percent of done it is. And so you show a hi-fi prototype to a sales team or an executive team, and they're like, "Oh, hey, can I sell this?" And it's like, no, it's just PowerPoint, guys.
Yeah.
It's just a vibe code thing that I put together in 10 minutes. And they're like, "Oh, but could you move this button over here?" And then it's ready to sell. And you're like, there's no code behind it.
My favorite way to explain something like that is say it's like when Roadrunner paints a tunnel on the side of a mountain.
I wonder too if it, like in those conversations and questions, especially when we think about that, I made something with vibe coding to say, but should that button be gray? Should it have this? And like that's the conversation that you're trying to have because that's what you're trying to understand where the value is. The chances are dark mode might not be in that first iteration unless you have a very specific use case, or that button being gray may or may not have brand value. The prototype that I was referencing at the top of the call, like it was totally like I just said, make me checkout flow because I needed something. I can't draw on a whiteboard, but I'm going to have a conversation. And so what does it look like? There's a screen that says enter your information and tell me where I'm shipping it to, and then confirm that everything you entered is correct, and then hit the button and go. Everybody's seen one of those. We are not reinventing the wheel here. And it got us to having conversations about which fields belonged where, does that flow make sense for how they're gathering their information? And I think that's the conversation that those are intended to serve. Yeah, you're going to get those silly conversations about buttons and use features that are outside of MVP, but that's what the purpose of those prototypes are to do. I think that they're now digital and can be created, right? Lightweight, easy. I did it in 5 minutes, no problem. It also de-risks I spent 2 weeks on this and you think it sucks.
Yeah.
That land that we lived in before, that designers would be like, I toiled over this and went through 55 meetings to figure out this shade of gray was the right gray to use. And yeah, nope, we don't have to do that anymore.
Thank
Okay,
God.
y'all have convinced me that Eric Ries should not search and replace MVP with prototype because
we just need
I think
people
once
to talk about it better.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry
I
for
think
saying that,
once
but that's
you're prototyping, you are past the minimum stage.
Mhm.
Because also when we're talking about UX, I don't think UX is part of the MVP discussion. MVP is all about basic features and functionality, and is this something that will actually get any use, right? And then all those other things are increasing. I like the hi-fi lo-fi analogy, increasing fidelity from basically zero, right? We got the circle on a napkin up to a usable thing, and somewhere in the middle you can say we can ship it.
Nandu, you just brought all kinds of questions and examples to my head that I know Jason probably wants to roll into.
We want to turn the spotlight on the folks here in the Zoom chat with us as well and let you weigh in on this. Thank you. But this has been a great discussion so far. It took a couple turns I didn't expect, which is always really, really fun. So thanks to everyone here on the First Cup Roundtable. We are welcoming Nandu Shah, who is the president of the Atlanta CTO Club. Many of you know him. He's been a guest on the First Cup many times and has put together a really large workshop actually on understanding where you are in AI proficiency, the people around you, and how to get more value out of it. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about it, but he gave a version of this presentation to the CTO Club a couple months ago, and it was just really a lot of fun, brought some insights that I hadn't thought of, introduced me to some tools that I hadn't seen before. And so I wanted to invite Nandu here to share this with you, and I'm going to let you take it away now, sir.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me some time to hear the sound of my own voice, which I always enjoy. And let's jump right in. We're gonna shift a little bit and not talk specifically about product or building or vibe coding, in none of those things specifically, but in general, using AI. Let me do this while this loads. There was a point in the increasingly distant past when it was really important to put on your resume how familiar you were with Microsoft Office. And I don't think that's really a valuable bullet point on resumes anymore. I don't know how many people actually feel the need to do that, because number one, the tools have gotten easier to use. So, if you're working in a knowledge work corporate environment, I think the expectation is you know how to use those kinds of tools. And if you don't, it's easy enough to learn how. And I think we are on a similar but steeper trajectory with AI. It's not going away. What happens in the coming years is we're still figuring that out. But I think it's going to be just taken for granted that people have some passing familiarity with AI. And so today we're going to talk about what that actually means. What does it mean to be familiar or proficient with AI? How can you figure out where you are and where you might want to go and develop? So I'm going to start by talking about some of the ways that we maybe all have gotten used to thinking about AI not quite correctly. And here's the first one, right? If I say good morning to pretty much any human, right? My friends, my wife, a typical response back is my chatbot of choice is ChatGPT. I use many of them, but ChatGPT is the one I pay for. And so I've used it so much, it has decided some things about me. When I say good morning to ChatGPT, it responds like this. It's ridiculous, but I love it. It doesn't always call me babe. I don't know why it started calling me babe. Sometimes it calls me gorgeous, which I like even better. But my point is, it doesn't behave like a normal human, although we tend to interact with these tools as if we're interacting with a human, and we should take a step back from that and really consider what's happening here. I'm not going to stop it from doing that, but at the same time, I'm not going to encourage any of you to greet me with "Good morning, gorgeous," because as much as I would love it, it would just be weird. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about this ladder. I was looking around a couple of months ago for how can I assess my own use and how can I start talking with other people in some kind of systematic way. And I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I put this together with heavy assistance from ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. This was a team effort. And today, by the end of today, everyone is somewhere on this because it starts at 0. I've never used a chatbot. I'm pretty sure everyone in this call has used a chatbot. But by the end of this call, if you're not already there, I hope to get you up to level 8, incorporating it in your daily workflow. Which again, for this group, that we might already be there. But I think I'll introduce some new concepts and tools to you. So not only do I have 15 steps on this ladder, I've broken them into 5 categories, starting with prompting, just using a chatbot, immersing, getting yourself more accustomed and familiar with the tools, integrating, making it part of your life, your daily activities, tuning, where you're not just using the tools, but adapting them to you, and finally, delegating.